1971, Bangladesh War and the decisive victory by the Indian Army transformed Prime Minister Indira Gandhi into a deity. She was compared to the goddess Durga. In the euphoria of victory, the Congress swept the polls in the 1972 Assembly elections. Both in the center and the states, it was preeminent. The Congress by now had been shaped to reflect her personality and preferences. Yet, just 2 years later, Indira Gandhi was to face her most serious political challenge, one that would force the daughter of India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, to jeopardize the very fate and future of Indian democracy itself. In 1974, Sanjay Gandhi was at the center of a controversy which had the ingredients of a major scandal. The youngest son of the Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, was obsessed with a dream to manufacture a people's car. His critics found Sanjay inexperienced and unsuitable to implement such an ambitious project. Among the few who gave Sanjay the benefit of the doubt and actually visited his makeshift factory was Khushwant Singh, then editor of the Illustrated Weekly of India.
There were 2 cars there, and Sanjay asked me to drive one, which I did. And he found my driving too slow. He said, "Tez nahi chala sakte." I said, "All right, I'll try fast." But he was dissatisfied, and he said, "Aap idhar baitho," and he took over the wheel. And he really traveled at great speed over dirt tracks and plowed fields and everything to show me how good it was.
In 1975, Sanjay Gandhi would find himself sucked into the hurly-burly of politics thanks to an innocuous court case involving his mother. Raj Narayan, the socialist candidate who stood against Indira from Raebareli in the 1971 elections, launched a case against her over election irregularities. 4 years later, at the Allahabad High Court, Justice Jagmohan Sinha was ready to deliver his judgment on the 12th of June 1975.
I treat every judgment and every case alike. I never thought that it was a historic judgment. Because if a judge thinks that there is a very important case, then it can sway his judgment.
It was a historic judgment nonetheless. One that found Indira Gandhi guilty on 2 counts of electoral malpractice. It invalidated Indira's election and disbarred her from office for 6 years. Raj Narayan stood triumphant in front of the world press.
The people rejoice and reaffirm their faith in the democratic institutions of India. I accept the judgment with humility.
This judgment came at a time when the opposition had launched a major campaign against Indira Gandhi, accusing her government of rampant corruption. It was led by the aging patriarch Jayaprakash Narayan. The student-based Sampoorn Kranti movement had been gathering strength for months. Every day, in cities across the country, opposition parties had been staging protest rallies against Mrs. Gandhi's rule. The country was coming to a standstill. Sensing the moment was right, the opposition went in for the kill. At the time of her supreme political crisis, Mrs. Gandhi turned to her younger son Sanjay for support and advice. Justice Sinha had granted a stay order for 20 days to give the government time to appoint a new Prime Minister. Sanjay Gandhi and his supporters used this time to arrange demonstrations of support and loyalty. They convinced Indira to fight back.
By one judge in a high court pronouncing a judgment and the opposition of that time saying that that is the end of the matter and we won't wait and Mrs. Gandhi must go, was what we were agitating against.
On the 20th of June 1975, Indira Gandhi's lawyers filed an appeal in the Supreme Court. while Mrs. Gandhi defiantly addressed a massive gathering at the Boat Club in Delhi.
It is my duty to see that nothing is done anywhere in any corner of the world which can cast any reflection on this character of the Indian people.
On the evening of 25th June, the opposition parties announced countrywide protests to force Mrs. Gandhi's resignation.
A call was given to commence an agitation in every part of India. Which government could possibly tolerate a situation of this kind, when not only the people have been asked to revolt, but it is said that the army and the police should treat this as their own struggle.
Siddharth Shankar Ray helped Indira draft a proclamation. It declared that a grave emergency exists whereby the security of India is threatened by internal disturbances.
Then she said, then we should go to the president. I said, yes. Then she said, you come with me. We were with the president, maybe about 2 hours, 1.5 hours. She explained the facts to the president, showed him the reports and everything as to what the position was and what the latest appeal was to the people. What do we do about it? And then I took over. I explained the law, and that emergency for internal disturbance can be declared if the danger was imminent.
The president, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, signed it just before midnight. And for the first time since independence, a state of emergency was declared. Fundamental rights of the citizen were suspended, and Mrs. Gandhi, in effect, became a dictator. Leading opposition figures had been rounded up in the dead of night. JP was arrested. 600 other opposition leaders, including Morarji Desai and L.K. Advani, were also arrested.
Jayaprakash ji has been arrested, Morarji Bhai has been arrested. And then we consulted Vajpayee ji and myself, and we decided to await the police arrival and to leave. So they came at about 7:30 or so and picked us up.
Back in Delhi, just after midnight, members of Indira Gandhi's cabinet were woken up by a phone call. They were told to attend a meeting at 6 o'clock in the morning. The state of emergency declared in the country was to be retrospectively endorsed by the cabinet.
She called her cabinet and informed her about this. And cabinet approved wholly without any objection. Nobody objected. She pointed out everything, threadbare, as to why this was necessary. So this is how it happened.
That night, power was cut off from Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg, the Fleet Street of India, where the offices of almost all the major national dailies are located. Censorship was imposed on the press.
The emergency was declared, and there was complete pandemonium in the Times of India office. People didn't know what to do, because we were not used to censorship of the press. And this has been, we were given notices that nothing was to publish unless it had been cleared by the censor. When I discussed it with great length, and she wouldn't agree with me at all, she said, there can be no emergency, no press freedom with emergency. They have to toe the line.
But the emergency placed extraordinary power in the hands of an extra-constitutional authority, a man largely seen as reckless and arrogant. Sanjay Gandhi had gathered around him a bunch of aggressive cohorts who to many people were nothing more than unruly, undisciplined muscle men. It was obvious that Mrs. Gandhi's youngest son was being groomed for higher things. He was the star attraction in the mammoth Youth Congress rally held in New Delhi's Pragati Maidan in 1976.
आमतौर पे किसी युवक को गांव में या शहर में पूछें कि वो मुल्क के लिए कुछ करना चाहता है, तो सारे तैयार हैं, मुल्क के लिए कुछ करना चाहते हैं, लेकिन वो ये पूछते हैं कि हम क्या करें मुल्क।
In the Guwahati All India Congress Committee meet, Mrs. Gandhi went a step further. She declared the Youth Congress has stolen our thunder.
At that time, the Youth Congress was playing a very active role. We had a very concrete program, and it was a new generation of youth coming in. So it was a new resurgence in the polity of the country. In Guwahati, it was Youth Congress. For the first time, you saw so many Youth Congress banners, you saw so many Youth Congress workers from all over the country, and many of the very older leaders looked alien there. They started looking that what is this happening?
Her official blessings on Sanjay as an alternative power center was the signal for the Youth Congress Brigade to unleash what turned out to be a reign of terror. Inevitable stories of excesses began to surface. In the name of beautification, the capital's Turkman Gate area was bulldozed. Its occupants relocated. But it was the forced sterilization campaign in the name of family planning which gave the emergency its overriding stigma. Sanjay's meteoric rise was helped by the fact that the opposition was silenced, its leaders under arrest, and strict censorship in force. The ruthlessness of the regime came out when George Fernandez, who had gone underground, was finally arrested and produced in court in handcuffs.
It's not just the handcuff. It was handcuffs and chains. Used to be every day when I used to be brought to the court. I and my colleagues used to be brought to the court. We were 22 of us, and as we were, every morning we had to be brought to the court when the trial began, or earlier in that when dates were taken. At that time, plus a chain with which two policemen chained themselves to me, and similarly to other colleagues. That was Mrs. Gandhi's way of telling you that, you know how I can crush you.
On the 18th of January 1977, Mrs. Gandhi, with her instinct for the dramatic, surprised the world by making an unscheduled broadcast to the nation, announcing an end to the 19-month-long emergency. Fresh elections were announced. Insulated from the public mood, Indira Gandhi had underestimated hatred of the emergency and the opposition's strategy. Jagjeevan Ram, the powerful Dalit leader in Indira's cabinet, was the first to revolt. He was joined by H.N. Bahuguna, former UP chief minister who had fallen out with Sanjay Gandhi. His resignation from the Congress party electrified the political atmosphere. 4 non-communist parties merged with the Janata party under the ascetic Morarji Desai, though JP remained its lodestar. 2 months later, in a stunning election outcome, Mrs. Gandhi was swept out of power.
Well, she got a terrible drubbing from no one less than a buffoon, I think Rajnarayan, and Sanjay lost 2. And I came to see them when she was now in a different house and very woebegone, looked very sad. And I asked her, Mrs. Gandhi, ye kya hua? She said, feedback nahi tha. Because she'd been told the feedback she got was that she was very popular and would sweep the polls. This is her own government information agencies. So I said to her, Mrs. Gandhi, feedback kaise hota? Aapne press ko to band kar diya tha.
Morarji Desai, heading a motley collection of opposition parties, was sworn in as Prime Minister. The Janata Party, already riven by dissension, took yet another vow at Rajghat, the Samadhi of Mahatma Gandhi. Mrs. Gandhi's humiliating defeat was clearly more to do with the excesses of the emergency than popular support for the Janata Party. The flood of exposures in the media had laid the blame for those excesses on the so-called Gang of 4. Sanjay, architect and the chief enforcer of the mass sterilization program. Bansi Lal, defense minister, and Sanjay's hatchet man. Minister of State for Home, Om Mehta, who, on Sanjay's orders, orchestrated the mass arrests of politicians and journalists. And V.C. Shukla, the arrogant Minister for Information and Broadcasting, who enforced censorship rules with an iron hand.
Everything was done according to law. Even press censorship was done according to law. The law may be bad. Emergency was promulgated, that much bad, but they were under certain provisions of the Constitution, which were later on deleted. But they were under law of the land at that particular moment, that time. They were not illegal acts, or they were not high-handed acts against the law.
Within months, however, the Janata Party was in crisis. Indira Gandhi began to attract supporters again. In July 1977 in Belchi, a remote village in Bihar, local landlords had massacred whole families of landless Harijans. While the government dithered, Indira Gandhi decided to visit the village. All paths to Belchi had been washed away by the monsoon rains, and hardly had she covered any distance when her jeep got stuck. Mrs. Gandhi then started her march on foot. She had walked a few kilometers when Moti the elephant came to her rescue. After 3.5 hours, with the sun setting behind her, Indira Gandhi reached Belchi. The survivors of the massacre came running out of the village to greet her. She was with them for a short while, but by the time her cavalcade started the march back, the enthusiastic response from the crowds could mean only one thing: Mrs. Gandhi was on the comeback trail. Indira's return to strength infuriated the government. This provoked Chaudhry Charan Singh, the Home Minister, who ordered the arrest of Mrs. Gandhi on the 3rd of October 1977. When the CBI and the police arrived at 12 Willingdon Crescent, she made them wait for several hours, then insisted on being handcuffed.
Our first reaction, even Sanjay's reaction, was that they come to arrest him. But the police was in hundreds, and there was, I think, Mrs. Kiran Bedi there also with them. At the gate they had a net, as if they would fly off or something. And then we realized, Sanjay went and talked to the officers concerned, and they said they have come to arrest Mrs. Gandhi. Now they didn't have a warrant of arrest, so Sanjay ji, he said that you can't arrest unless you have a warrant of arrest for her. And then in the meantime, he gave me a list of MPs and journalists to contact. God, because they cut the phones in the house.
Her supporters soon mobbed the house. Mrs. Gandhi's histrionics showed that her legendary political instincts were still intact. It also gave Sanjay Gandhi and his activists another opportunity to flex their muscles. When she eventually left the house at 7:30 in the evening, she was showered with rose petals by the cheering crowd. The police car headed towards Haryana, followed by Sanjay Gandhi and her supporters.
As luck would have it, before the Haryana was crossed, there was a level crossing that was closed and railway train was going to go. So the whole thing had to stop there.
Realizing that she was being taken outside the jurisdiction of a Delhi warrant, Mrs. Gandhi got out of the car and sat on the ground surrounded by her lawyers and supporters.
After the level crossing was opened, they were requesting her to come and sit in the jeep, which she refused. She wouldn't sit in the jeep unless the jeep was turned and she was taken back to Delhi. So this one Mr. N.K. Singh, he tried to grab her wrist and her arm to take her forcibly, and she scolded him very, very strongly. And everybody said that we'll kill you if you touch her like this and all that.
The motorcade turned back to Delhi. The Janata government had committed its first major political blunder and its greatest administrative blunder. The next day, Indira Gandhi was produced in court. Outside the court, Sanjay and his gangs battled with the police and Janata Party supporters. The case against Mrs. Gandhi was that she had entered into a criminal conspiracy with industrial houses to provide her and her son Sanjay with jeeps for their election campaign. Inside the court, the judge dismissed the case. Mrs. Gandhi was free. Meanwhile, in another court, witnesses and depositions were piling up as the Shah Commission began its inquiry into the excesses of the emergency. Sanjay was made to appear to hear the allegations against him.
I accompanied him and Menaka to the Shah Commission. As Sanjay entered, there was free fall. It broke loose. Chairs, tables, everything we hurled at each other. I took shelter behind Kiran Bedi. She asked me, "Ke mere yahan ka?" I kone mein khada ho gaya. And I saw this fight go on. And Sanjay fought back. I couldn't believe. And they tore his shirt. And he hit back. He's a very powerful man. He was short, but he's very powerful. And within 10 minutes, Sanjay, of course, had carried his goons with him too. They got the better of the others and threw them out of the court. And the charming incident was that while all this was going on and Justice Shah hadn't come from his chambers to the room, Menaka leapt over the railing which separated the courtroom from the judge's chair and table, and she picked up 2 of his pens, from the holder, and gave them to me as mementos. I had them for many years with me.
It was the Supreme Court, however, which decided that Sanjay Gandhi deserved to be in the same place he had put hundreds of his opponents, in Tihar jail. The case, notoriously called the Kissa Kursi Ka case, one in which a satirical film had been banned and its negatives destroyed, was, ironically, one that had aroused the least public and media interest. Sanjay was eventually released amid high drama and familiar disruptions by his supporters. "34 months after her worst ever electoral defeat, Mrs. Gandhi stormed back as Prime Minister in the 1980 elections. But this was a new Congress party, one where Sanjay and his cronies called the shots. What effect Sanjay's power would have on Indian politics would never be known. The weather forecast for that day predicted clear skies, scattered clouds. Maximum temperature 40 degrees Celsius, a perfect day for flying. At 7:30 a.m., the man widely acknowledged to be the power behind the throne and the political heir to Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, arrived at the Safdarjung airport and walked straight to the new plane acquired by the Delhi Flying Club. It was still moderately cool at 7:58 that morning when Sanjay Gandhi took off. At a few minutes past 8, Sanjay began to perform loops with his plane at a dangerously low height of 1,000 feet. Suddenly, the plane went into a dive from which he could not pull out. The plane crashed just 500 meters away from his home. Sanjay and his co-pilot died instantly. More than 300,000 people crowded the streets of Delhi for one of the grandest, even if unofficial, state funerals ever organized. No one would now ask where the son would be without his mother. They would ask rather where the mother will be without her son. As Mrs. Gandhi watched the funeral pyre, Sanjay's elder brother Rajiv, who was then an Indian Airlines pilot, rose to perform the last rites. Sanjay's death altered his life irrevocably. Mrs. Gandhi and her dynastic obsession had ensured that Rajiv was dragged into the arena he hated most, politics.